Hola, muy buenos días.
Good
Antes de
morning to all of you. Before we begin, I would like
que ese
to
diálogo del día de hoy
inform you
con
that today's
interpretaciones
dialogue has simultaneous interpretation into English and to Spanish.
esa opción
And to be able to use that, you have to go to the bottom side of your screen and select the preferential language.
interpretation available. You just have to go to the bottom bar in your Zoom platform and select your preference language in the interpretation button. Bueno, bienvenidos y bienvenidas al diálogo
Welcome to all of you
con las organizaciones
uh,
de la
to the organizations of civil society of Latin America and the Caribbean. My name is Duclair Steiner. I am Alliance's Director of the Subregional Office at FAO, and I will be directing the dialogue today. And this meeting is being transmitted in real time through the YouTube channel of FAO Americas, where all of you will be able to send your comments and questions. We would like to invite you to register your opinion or your ideas through Twitter with the hashtag Conference FAO Americas and at FAO Americas. We would like to begin today's talk. We have an hour and a half programmed for this event. We will begin with some opening and welcome remarks with the FAO Assistant Director General of Mr. Mario Lubetkin, who's here with us today. Thank you, Mario. Good morning. The floor is yours. Good morning, moderator. Bueno, good morning, representatives of the organizations of civil society. It is a pleasure for me to extend my welcome remarks in this moment of reflection on the advancements and progress we have achieved in the 37th meeting at the regional FAO in Quito, Ecuador, 2022. Latin America and the Caribbean has illustrated a significant decrease in figures of Hamburg from the biennial 2021-2022 compared to other regions in the world. We still register more than 43 million people that are malnourished. The evidence shows that the food security has deteriorated extensively in the Caribbean and in the more disadvantaged countries of the region. Before the scenario at FAO, we understand that there is a need to work coordinately in a multi-sectorial fashion to quickly respond to this. The governments, the roles of scholars, governments, and civil society, particularly all of you, it'd be fundamental to set forth the transformation paths in agro-food. From FAO, we recognize the invaluable support of civil society and for agricultural and non-agricultural activities to reduce the existing gaps, strengthen the participation of women, youth, and indigenous people on the path towards food safety and nutritional safety in a concrete manner. We have heard and seen various topics that you have set forth requesting our cooperation with the four approved aspects in the strategic framework of FAO: better production, better nutrition, better environment, and finally, a better life. These four pillars are work based on sustainable development, ecology, regenerative, the management of forestry and soils that are degraded, agrosystems, the risk and territorial and coastal fisheries, and pesticides, amongst other topics. Science and innovation have been a priority in the agenda of the cooperation of FAO in the transformation of agro-foods. We have seen work in an articulated manner with a transforming governance and strengthening of the different sectors between science, politics, and civil society. This was a message that was set forth by the Director General of FAO during the G27 summit. In addition, I would like to refer to the Declaration of Buenos Aires of CELAC of January of 2023, which includes a special heads of government for the update of the security plan for nutrition, eradication of hunger, known as the Plan Sansalac from FAO. And other cooperation instances, we have progressed in this path, and it opens a new opportunity to visualize the food security in the entire region, both Latin America and the Caribbean, as a priority in political agendas and taking fundamental decisions. We continue to prepare ourselves for the next conference, regional conference for FAO, which will be held in Guyana in March of 2024. And their contributions will be fundamental to have a coordinated meeting of our members to strengthen our alliances and a new manner of working as a South-South triangular agreement and cooperation, and to achieve our objectives in the region. So I would like to thank the extraordinary activity carried out and participation that you are providing us in this dialogue and consultation, which will allow us to consolidate recommendations that will complement the efforts for a real region and a world without hunger in 2023, so that no one is left behind. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mario. And we will continue with the agenda. The floor is now yours for our leader at the FAO Regional Program for Latin America and the Caribbean, Maya Takagi, who will be presenting something very summarized on our strategic framework. Thank you, Maya. You have 5 minutes. Thank you, Duca. Good morning to all the colleagues that are connected. I would also like to thank and tell you that we're very happy that we're here in this meeting today. The commitment that we set forth in the last conference, where we would have an exclusive dialogue with the civil society, preferably a year before, to go over the progress that we have achieved in this biennial, and that we carry out every 2 years. I recall very well this commitment, and we wanted to do it in the first semester, but given all the post-pandemic aspects, we were a little delayed, but we are here. This is very important because we have had the progress of the implementation of recommendations that we received. And also, it is an important moment to address your opinions and suggestions in order that we advance in official documentation that we need, that are at the finalization stage. And this dialogue will allow us to feed that document before we conclude. This is a topic that we also discussed last time we met. We have various processes of consultation with countries, governments, and dialogues in general, in different moments that we've had. And we will continue with the process of identifying speakers, observers for the conference in March of 2024. And I would also like to motivate you that you send us your comments via email so that we can publish the documents on the website in order to consolidate them before the conference begins. This is all underway, as Mario defined, from Quito to Georgetown. I will share very quickly what I have asked to present, which is on the agenda, which is referring to the strategic framework. I hope you can see it. I'm sharing. Very quickly, I have less than 5 minutes now. I had 5, now I have 3. So It's important to understand what is this strategic framework that we talk about. And it was a previous conference. It was a moment in the we wanted to land the strategic planning 2022, 2031. It is a process of 10 to 15 years for FAO in planning the vision, global objectives, strategic objectives, central functions, transversal topics, challenges and trends at the global. That's a strategic decision, right? There's an intermediate plan which defines the result framework, which describes the objectives and goals, how to measure these goals, how do we set forth the results? And then, obviously, within this framework, every 2 years, we have a budget structure within the organization, which provides us the elements to implement. And we are in the first biennial of this strategic framework, which is finalizing this year. So this year, we're going to finalize the first biennial of this planning process within the strategic framework, which defines the strategic process that FAO wants to contribute for the agro-food system so that they can be more efficient, resilient, sustainable, and inclusive to achieve better production, nutrition, environment, a better livelihood without leaving anyone behind. These 4 improvements or betters are underway. We are building the narrative. Our teams will be presenting this in a sequence, how we define our priorities in the regional agenda within the context that we have specifically linked to our region in the global strategic framework, and how this is translated to the region and the role we play that we want to discuss with you, with the government, so that you will help us to define these 4 improvements are organizing. We will be supporting the SDGs. This is very important, which is part of the strategic framework. It comes with more direct contribution of FAO towards the SDGs. Our indicators for results are the SDG, the main SDGs, which you can see here, this famous tree that our colleagues are going to show us in each presentation we will hear today. This connection obviously talks about transversal images. You can see the top, gender, youth, inclusion. These are topics that must be in all our participations and interventions, equality, gender, youth, with this comprehensive and integrated view. Accelerators for innovation, technology, data, governance, institutions. Obviously, all of this in the framework of important implementation of public policies within these 4 improvements. Each improvement has its programs, which I will not go into detail. But I did want to underline that the zen of this strategic framework is to reach those 3 SDGs to eliminate hunger, rural, eradicate hunger, which is number 2, and be able to overcome the inequalities, which is one of the most important aspects of this region. It's on not only all these 3 SDGs, each programming area refers to different programming. So I wanted to underline the strategic framework, all the different programming areas, and the direction that we are taking, the regulatory, inclusive, resilient, sustained, without leaving anyone behind. I want to underline that your input is extremely important for the assessment of the documents that we are preparing for the next conference. And we hope this will be a very fruitful event. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maya, for the very brief explanation that is very complex in nature. So we will now go to Daniela Godoy. Daniela is our officer for Food and Nutrition Security Policy Officer. She will be presenting a very summarized manner, Daniela, the agenda of better nutrition. You have 7 minutes, Daniela. I will let you know 1 minute before you have to conclude. Thank you very much, Duca. Good morning to all of you. My greetings to everyone. We hope that we can have this listening moment and we can share also our information to the next conference we will have. I will share my presentation so I can stay within the time allotted to me. Yes, can you see it? Yes, we can. Thank you, perfect. The presentation that I am going to set forth next is better nutrition, as was presented by Maya within the strategic framework of FAO. This is one of the betters that we are working on to achieve the objectives that have already been set forth. It is important to begin before we center ourselves around the proposal that we're providing you with. Your perceptions, opinions about this would be important to have. What are the important challenges that we face when being able to support the member states in Latin America and the Caribbean when we talk about food security and nutrition challenges? We have 4 important aspects that we need to underline and we need to center around, and these are extremely complex because these are multi-causal and they are determining factors, and they need to be developed in the short, but also medium and long term. The prevalence of hunger, although it decreased between 2021 and 2022, we have to underline that we have already seen an increase in the context of that pandemic, but also from the year 2014. So somehow it depends on a series of determining factors that have to do with agri-food systems. They have to do with the economic, social aspects, the existence of inequalities in the region, which also are directly linked to climate crisis. There are millions of people in the region that are hungry, and this is a major challenge that we need to tackle at the regional level. Secondly, I would like to say that there's an important challenge in prevalence and moderate and severe food insecurity. We have also seen an improvement between 2021 and 2022, where basically it's significant, but there's a major challenge ahead of us in any way. This prevalence is above the previous levels before the pandemic. But another aspect that it is extremely important that it is over the estimates at the global level. And this is an important challenge that we need to face, considering agri-food systems, but also from a standpoint of equality. And this affects mostly women compared to men, and higher and also in different populations that are found in a disadvantaged position or vulnerable. Another aspect that has to do with food security and nutrition has to do with the prevalence of overweight in children aged less than 5 years of age. It is above the global level, and obesity in adults was estimated higher. 1 of 4 adults, according to the last analysis or survey that we carried out that I am going to present next, set forth obesity and therefore it is a challenge that is of extreme relevance and paramount to the region. There are other territories in some countries that set forth problems in, although the region has improved, it is these improvements that we have seen in the last years were decelerated during the pandemic, and also sets forth the double load of malnutrition. Another aspect that is the cost of a healthy diet. A healthy diet is above the world level, and it is higher in the area of Caribbean. And I will also mention an analysis of this by sub-region, which it differs. It is approximately $4 per person, which is higher than the global estimate, and this also presents a major challenge. When we talk about sub-regions, it's important to mention that the cost of a healthy diet is higher in the Caribbean. It sets forth a major challenge with the prevalence of food insecurity, moderate or severe, while in South America, we have seen a reduction in the last year of the prevalence of food insecurity, moderate to severe. It is important to underline that this sets forth another challenge, which has to do with overweight and obesity, and it has a double load with insecurity and malnutrition and other problems like micronutrient deficiencies and that which relate to obesity and overweight. These are different challenges in different regions, and this is something that we need to incorporate it into this proposal. You have 1 moment, 1 minute, sorry. So to continue and provide you with some results that have been achieved since the previous conference, we have progressed in that which relates to the market agenda, in the commerce agenda, also to access to healthy diets. And I would like to very quickly present what refers to the strategic framework. We are working for better nutrition in the framework of FAO in different areas, 5 areas of focus of better nutrition for the entire population, to not leave anyone behind, the food safety, reducing food loss and waste, and the transparent market and trade, not only for food safety, but also improve livelihoods and other aspects associated to food security and nutrition. In these different areas, you can see that we have once recollected the information and evidence to support government. We have published on a yearly basis the regional panorama with all the information of hunger, food safety, and all the indicators of malnutrition that I referred to at the beginning. We are also working in the aspect of nutrition, of healthy nutrition. We have the Parliamentarians Against Hunger, and this requires not only public policies, but also to work in regulations. Another aspect we're working on is safe food for everyone. It refers to the food systems based on education, nutrition, and everything related to the data associated to the consumption of foods that provide us with this evidence, and that which relates to the most nutrition for the most vulnerable. Well, there is a proposal, of course, to focalize on the improvement of programs and public policies of food feeding programs in schools. We have worked with a regional group with the support of FAO Brazil. We have to continue this, not only to improve the school feeding programs, but also the governance and that which relates to the inclusion of family agriculture and farming with food markets in the area. And I would also like to underline the protection of nutrition and how these measures complement of food feeding programs, feeding programs are very important for the better nutrition of the most vulnerable. And that which relates to food safety, the proposal is mainly to continue working with all the risk analysis and support the government, the member states with the systems and everything that relates to the antimicrobial resistance. And that which refers to reducing food loss and waste. Firstly, to support member states in measurements of estimates in food loss and waste, in supporting them with other agencies. We're carrying out this work, and also that which relates to the implementation of regulation, voluntary conduct, and so on. We have worked with different member states to reduce loss and waste of food. And lastly, in that which relates to transparent markets and trade, we will work of the development in the support of supplies, market intelligence, and early warning systems. Secondly, the follow-up of data, not only of the systems and analysis of prices, but also in the offer available for commerce, trade, and also the creation of building capacities for the agro markets for farmers and including them. As I said this before, those are the five priorities that we are proposing to set forth in the next conference, with some aspects that we were able to present in the technical assistance and the role FAO plays to support the member states. It is very valuable for us to hear you and to bring a wealth of input to improve food security and nutrition in our region in the compliance with SDGs 2030. Thank you.
Un poquito pasada el tiempo, así que estamos apretaditos. Vamos a nuestro
Okay,
comentario.
it seems like we're a bit tight on time. Let's go to our civil society organizations. They're going to comment, right? We have a friend of ours, Fernando, and he'll make his questions. Let's invite him. Fernando, he is a secretary, Lopez, and he's here with us. Fernando, are you here? Fernando? Fernando, the secretary of Coprofam, Fernando Lopez, are you here? And the representative in the Alliance for Food Safety.
Ok, no está Fernando. Tal vez dejemos
Okay, it seems like Fernando's not here. Maybe we'll leave his comment for later. No problem. I don't know if he has maybe some connection issues. Sometimes that can happen. I believe that we can go to our next presentation now. And to leave Fernando for the end, I guess, when we check his connection, when it's perfect. Now let's go to our second presentation for today, and it's Luis Betuski. He's a senior officer of policies in rural development, and he will introduce our work agenda on better life. Luis, you have 7 minutes. I'll let you know when it's concluded. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Warm greetings to each and every one of our friends, colleagues. A pleasure to see many of you here and warm permanent dialogue. The truth is that that's an isolated activity of everything we do, and part of the conviction that good public policies, you make them, create them by creating dialogue. So I'd like to thank everyone, Marilu Betki, Maya, and everyone they thanked, right? Now, I'm going to put my timeline here and my timer, and I'll talk about some of the improvements, right? We're going to talk about better life. Of course, having a better life means having better nutrition. It's we must have better production and better care. So many of these areas are connected, so it's important, and better environment. All these are linked. And accelerators are important here: innovation, technology, governance, and dialogue, right? Like the one that we're creating now in this work session. Here, obtaining a better life in the region, it brings series of challenges that you know very well, right? Latin America is still the most unequal region across the world. Persistence of inequalities between urban and rural areas, between rurality and farmers and non-farmers. It's still a situation where we face extreme poverty, rural poverty, right? Living in extreme poverty, and that disproportionately affects women and indigenous peoples or First Nations. So, rural poverty. So we focus on that work area, on that group. And these are enormous challenges. Given the high levels of informality that the region has, we saw a great challenge in generation of employment in a region that is increasingly more vulnerable to shocks, especially environmental shocks. That was our context, colleagues. There's a lot of efforts that we have to make, a lot of dialogue and innovation and policies, creativity to face all those challenges, challenges. And the region still has a slow economic growth and still has fiscal restrictions and constrictions, but many new things here, right? There's a transition process on the agricultural systems, and there's transitions in the food systems. So within that context, I'll propose some ideas. But first of all, I'd like to comment something that seems quite important, seems worth accounting for. We met in the regional conference in Quito a while back, right? You saw the different countries, the implementation of the hand-in-hand initiative. And at that moment, the FAO had supported 14 countries in the region, and 14 countries that already have investment plans for prioritized sectors, many of which engage family agriculture, family farming in their organizations within the framework of there's many people that were here with you in December 2022 within the framework of the UN Decade for Family Farming, December 2022. And yes, this Decade for Family Farming, and there was a stock taking of 5 years of the decade, and many of the countries in the EU were engaged in the preparation of the national plans. Also, at a global level, we created a report that stated the status. The FAO launched the global report on the status of women in agri-food systems, which has a strong impact on our campaign. Women with right, women improved. And we were very engaged in preparing an institutional and technical strengthening of the Amazon dialogues, right? We insisted much for organizations in the region to be present, participating. Here we have a result linked to our friends in the Caribbean, right? Micheli, 5 years ago, we talked about how important it was to have the Caribbean in the discussion. And we have the FAO for ACP program, which has strengthened relationships with the Caribbean. The regional technical platform for family farming, which has promoted family farming debates. We've had a good session on agroecology, which is still something important in our work plan. And these are just some with advances, some of these topics supported by the strategic framework approved by all countries. We also have the initiative 1,000 Digital Villages. Latin America and the Caribbean. We're supporting different agro-tourism ventures in 14 countries, 52 of them, focusing more on the importance of the free prior consent process by strengthening and promoting a learning cycle on First Nations. So that's the first thing those are things we did, and I think we can continue working those 6 areas of focus that are here. And in these 2 minutes I have, I'm going to mention some things. One is a very strong decision backed up by the regional conference, and we hope it continues to be supported in terms of empowerment of rural women to breach gender gaps. We have an evidence-based program here, but we must focus on transformative gender now, focused on with an intersectional approach, right? Women at the same time they're young, right? They are part of indigenous peoples, so more access to productive resources to services, digital technologies, which would allow having better life, right? Increase in their quality of life. Number 2, inclusive rural transformation. Here you see more focus on the labor markets, to have more labor markets and economic opportunities, to integral assessment of policies and cost-effective interventions and better governance. Now, all these agricultural and food emergencies have to do with strengthening of resilience of communities, of territories, and agri-food systems. Here, the FAO has a lot of experience in this. When there's an emergency, we need to go with a focus to reconstruct their life. Humanitarian assistance, with combining this with development approach with different principles, but with creating capacities, the response capacity, resilience through information systems of the agricultural policies, food safety, the environment, social ones in an integrated, comprehensive manner, understanding that this would help us reduce the risks and the vulnerability of territories or families and the agri-food system in the face of frequent shocks like the one we're currently going through. Last but not least, this idea of maintaining a focus on investments, the development of public goods, to invent rural innovations in rural development, right? That's why we have a strong focus on looking for the investments that can really make the difference in territories, rural territories, and agri-food systems in our region. So I'm happy to continue dialogue, and sorry for taking 30 more of your seconds. Thank you very much, Luis. That was very fast. Now, as planned, after the presentation, we'll hear some reflections, comments from a representative of civil society, in this case of English-speaking Caribbean. Welcome. The English-speaking Caribbean in this dialogue, you're very well welcome, and we're making an effort here to incorporate our colleagues from that sub-region in our agenda. Here with us, we have Gaspar Taylor. She is the president of the Network of Rural Producing Women of Trinidad and Tobago, linked with different organizations. So I think we have her here. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Greetings.
Bienvenida.
Yeah. I am very happy to be here to share some of the experiences that we have had over the years of working with FAO with the local office as a civil society organization. And this goes back to I would say about 20 years ago, working with FAO. Additionally, our ambassador to the United Nations arranged a meeting for us to meet with the FAO representatives in New York at the time when the family farming decade was launched, so that we have had a long-standing relationship with FAO However, some of the officers that we were working with here in Trinidad and Tobago have since retired, or I think one even died, so that we have lost the type of contact that we have had with them. And I think at this point in time, we should be thinking in terms of trying to resuscitate that type of agreement. What have we been doing as a result of the family farming? We began many years ago working with our rural communities in encouraging them to not only do the family farming, but also to have the value chain included so that they could have prepared produce from their markets. For example, we did a skill training in using the products from the farm, like the root crops, cassava and potato and so on, to infuse in the bread making. And that was a project that was well accepted. As a matter of fact, we were oversubscribed and they have been asking to have more of that type of training. Of course, the funding has always been one of the areas that we had to take into consideration. Additionally, we have been working with 129 youth clubs in Trinidad and Tobago, mostly in the rural communities, where we are able to work not only with the schools, but also with the communities. And as such, we have been able to launch community gardens. We have about 15 community gardens. Some of them came together and did the community garden in one particular space because of the training that we would have received from the University of the West Indies in collaboration with the Purdue International University, so that the young people who did the training there, and I would also like to say the training was done online. And we began this online project many years ago when we introduced the Farmers and Broadcasters Initiative workshops, so that we had an understanding of what the farmers needed to have their information transmitted to the various areas. And this was done in collaboration with the Caribbean. And as a follow-up, we had representatives go to Suriname and also St. Vincent to interact with the farmers there and the broadcasters. Additionally, we have been working with our members in promoting one of the products in Trinidad and Tobago that goes to waste, because it is something that is grown just about everywhere in the community, rural, urban, and otherwise, and that is mangoes. So we have been able to introduce the Mango Festival now in its 16th year to encourage people to have innovations in using the product of mangoes in just about every imaginable area. And we normally have a prize for the most innovative product each year. This year, for example, we had the first International Mango Festival, where we were able to bring in universities from Ghana. We had a university from the Purdue University in the United States, and our own university here, where we were able to merge the working of the Mango Festival and share the information with others. The Mango Festival also allows members to have a marketplace where they can produce and sell their products. We are continuing with the Mango Festival as we continue to reach out to other universities who have shown an interest in the Mango Festival. And this year, we will be, as we have done in the years gone by, we normally award women from the various communities, women in agriculture, women in community development, women in entrepreneurial development, women in tourism, and all of the areas that we try to introduce dealing with the 17 development goals. And this year for the UN International Rural Women's Day, which is guarded for the 15th. We normally merge the 15th, the 16th, which is World Food Day, and the 17th, which is World Poverty Day, together into one day where we honor all of the women who have been able to contribute in health, in food safety, in just about every area one can think of. I don't think we have enough time for me to go through all of the areas, but this year we've been
Mrs.
nominating
Taylor, you have 1 minute left.
we've been nominating 9 women and 1 business because we have seen the progress of that particular business from 2012 on to the current year. So that we will be nominating, awarding these women with trophies, and we're doing it in collaboration with the Office of the Prime Minister in Trinidad and Tobago, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Rural Government, and ourselves coming together. And of course, I should also include the University of the West Indies that will join us for the prize giving or award giving ceremony. And I think that's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to share and for allowing me to represent not only Trinidad and Tobago, but the Caribbean as well, because I know some of our Caribbean sisters are here with us today. And thank you very much again. Bye-bye.
Muchas gracias. Muy interesante lo que nos ha compartido.
Thank you very much. That was a quite interesting presentation. I think you showed part of what Luis had presented. And thank you very much. Let's go directly in order to care for time. Let's go to the other presentation we have. We are here with Ivy Ortiz. She's an officer for the field program of FAO, but she's got 2 hats. She's also representing Better Environment here. So Ivy, 7 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll have another comment from another member, from Ana. So yeah, I'll try to go quite fast in order to have more comments, more time for comments. Okay, I'll start my presentation. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for this space provided to share what we consider can be important for the region based on consultations that we've had through different media, including representations and different surveys and the field work that we do with countries. Better environment brings some challenges that we're all going through, right? In terms of budget between 2008 and 2018, the losses of agriculture production losses related and covered are estimated at $29 billion. In terms of greenhouse gas emissions, the region produces 46% of these throughout the world. The projections show on water stress, right, that is happening in all different regions in the Caribbean and South America and Central America are increasing these projections. In addition, there is an overexploitation of habitat and an alteration and loss of biodiversity that affect all the factors that I've commented. In addition to all the factors I've commented, it also estimated that 50% of productive soils of the region are being affected, right, by high level of erosion and water stress. It's also associated to some climate issues, including forest fires that also affect soil or land. These challenges that we present drove us in 2022 and 2023 to work on these areas of action. I'm going to inform a report on what we've reached in the prior biennium, including PLACA, which is a platform, a regional platform that allows you to exchange experiences on climate change and on adaptation and mitigation in the different countries. And we already have 16 member countries and many activities, right? which makes countries negotiate climate change or do climate change negotiations in different forms. There's also initiatives with reduction of degradation and deforestation, right? It's red in 12 countries, including monitoring evaluation, also with restoration practices. We've also worked with member countries, supporting member countries to be able to have access to green funds, climate change funds, and GEF funds. And we reached GCF funds or GEF, and we've invested 134 million in different countries. Projects associated to biodiversity, we've been reached $163 million implementing projects across countries, which also has a national part approach that engages the commitment of countries to face all these topics. We've also increased the capacity of countries to generate data related to forest cover, and also associated with data on emissions. And in addition, we've worked much on insect pollinators and their ecosystem services, which are critical for production, agricultural production in the region. Our proposals are here. We have 4 main axes: climate change, mitigating and adapting agri-food systems, bioeconomy, biodiversity and ecosystem services for food and agriculture, and achieving sustainable urban food systems and also cities. In these 4 priority areas, we want to work in the climate change part. We want to work on something that's very important, which is the action to anticipate the effects of climate change, to be able to implement good practices, agricultural practices, within the context that FAO works on, right? Agricultural, forests, fishing, livestock systems, etc. So we must work with the countries to create anticipatory actions, right? And to create reports and commit to international commitments, to promote technical collaboration amongst all the different countries, also to strengthen, to build the technical capacity to better respond to climate change, adaptation, mitigation, and also to that anticipatory action, right? And also we do this by strengthening cities in order to encourage and promote sustainable cities. In terms of bioeconomy, we want to support bioproductivity to improve sustainability and productivity, to promote the formulation and implementation of evidence-based policies and programs with the data generated in different countries, and to support the implementation of the agreements of the Belém Declaration or statement in the Amazon. Now, this issue of bioeconomy is associated with providing better balance or equilibrium between economic, social, and environmental matters. That is the focus of the work of our economy, better economy. Now, in terms of biodiversity, we want to strengthen capacities for integrated water management systems, water security, and governance by promoting the better use of water, like I said, and to be able to work with water stress that we're facing, right? Strengthening capacity development for sustainable land and management, to support management of ecosystems, including forest management and integrated management of coastal zones and maritime areas. We also have the mandate of including biodiversity, mainstreaming biodiversity in productive systems by fostering sustainable use of production, restoration, and conservation measures in the different agricultural systems, agri-food systems, to protect and improve the conditions of pollinator populations in the region. In terms of achieving sustainable urban food systems, we want to improve public policies associated to marketing and the food supply, and strengthening the capacities of intermediate and small cities and local agri-food system stakeholders. One moment, Ivy. Okay, I'm done. So I saved 1 minute for you. Thank you.
Gracias
a todos, a todas, y esperamos
Thank you,
sus
everyone, and
de
I'm going to
mejor.
wait for your comments, not your feedback, to improve our proposal. Thank you.
Tenemos casi 200 personas acompañándonos desde la
We
plataforma.
have approximately 200 people participating on social networks and the YouTube platform. Please connect with us through the different channels. I would like to open the floor for our friend, Jorge Stanley. We know him as Manny in a more personable way. He's a delegate of the International Council for Indigenous People, City, for the Alliance for Food Sovereignty. You have 5 minutes, Manny. Welcome, and thank you for being here with us.
Bueno, saludos. ¿Qué tal? Buenos días.
Hello and good morning to all of you. It is a pleasure for me also to greet important friends
En la FAO y en los diferentes
at
puntos.
FAO and different other institutions.
Lo primero que me llegó a la mente antes
The
de
first thing that came to mind
el trabajo que están realizando y las
after hearing the work that has been set forth and the proposals that you have for the years to come, the first thing that came to mind was
un palestino no podía cultivar.
why would a Palestinian not have his own crops in his land? Why do my fellow indigenous people that are assassinated in this continent cannot take their food to their children? And all of them defend the environment, the earth, the soil, the rivers, the oceans. All of that rushed to my mind before I heard and read your comments. The defenders of diversity, land and waters are assassinated. This is a story, as you know, that has been carried through for centuries of conflicts and struggle. And today, we have other realities. We have climate change issues, all the virtual propaganda that is uploaded or elevates rather technology, artificial intelligence, but the ancestral knowledge is excluded. And the beating of all the humans that inhabit Mother Earth. I would like to tell you that with the arrival of the pandemic, the indigenous people, although we sung our traditional songs, these were reinforced. The consumption of traditional food stuff was reinforced. Children began bathing themselves in rivers. They left the schools and they continued to consume the local food. The youth had to leave the cities and return to their farms. And there was a solidarity exchange amongst indigenous groups. Although the indigenous people this activity was fostered because of the closure of the borders and the international community. There was a solidarity that took place again. When there is a conflict on water, soils, rivers, it is fundamental to include the human right to food and to water. We have to go back to the international agreements to implement them, such as the indigenous people declarations, the directives of the earth, the small-scale fisheries. These are very good international agreements that we have attained as a civil society, the movements, the governments, the institutions, but they're not implemented in each nation. We have very good agreements. We have very good policies. Sometimes they are debated, but they are not implemented within the nations. We must reach that point. I would like to mention some points that I believe is important to include. It is necessary that governments implement the treaties and agreements that they have adopted in that which relates to the soils, waters, and that the communities and indigenous people and peoples to have a dignified life, essentially in territories, savannas, Amazonia, mountain ranges, amongst others. The previous knowledge is fundamental within the communities where the lands, territories, and oceans and seas are located. It must be mandatory for companies and governments that want to develop any type of extractive development. It is another point. It is important that the governments respect and accept biodiversity and the environment by the indigenous people, and that they work jointly with communities to design and implement mitigation plans and adaptation plans, both national and local. Recognize the contribution of peoples, women, youth, indigenous people, and directives for the support of their own initiatives related to the response and reduction of climate change effects and the disasters and promotion of indigenous knowledge. And finally, I would like to set forth a comment. I would like to thank the technical team that have processed this within FAO, because I've heard that we have to work on agroecology. I heard some colleagues. We are hearing CLP, which is very significant, but we also have to face the struggle of the national budgets. We can talk, but the national budgets of nations do not include aspects of family farm and agroecology. There is still a path and there's still work to be done with our parliamentarians. Therefore, the work that is being carried out, we still have to reinforce it with the vision and the provision of farmers' movements, indigenous people, and other movements to set forth these public policies that we want to implement in our continent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mani, for your reflections. I believe that we are all reflecting on the depth of your words. We will continue now with another presentation. We will now go with best production. Now we have Ana Posas, who is here. She is agriculture officer. She's going to introduce her presentation about best production. You have 7 minutes. I will let you know. You have to find a minute before. Thank you, Duca, and your interest in being able to participate in what better production refers to. I will present this. The better production is based on the interaction of the different elements of agrosystems. And it is within that system there's a great relevance of the role being played, but the oceans, the diversity, and the concept of within these systems. It is very important how these interact of different types of producers and how this interaction of knowledge, local knowledge with innovation, technology, and different practices that will later be linked to consuming markets without leaving aside the implications of the environment, climate crisis, and so on. And from the optic of the institutions, the access to information, and other services of technical support and financial support. As I said, it is a regulatory system that will allow this to take place. Problems that are guiding our path for better production. In the link of a better environment, we see the need to continue working on the restoration of agricultural lands, to reduce tropical deforestation, because forests are the habitat of a great deal of biodiversity that pollinizes many of our food. It also sets forth the important impact of the plastic pollution in oceans and all this link with climate change that is representing a loss in food, and also the input that is linked to contamination in our whole agri-food system. For example, proteins consumption, it is half of what is consumed at the world level in the region. It is necessary to carry out a system that has to do with land, that has to do with agroecology and other types of agriculture, which restores these productive systems and generate updated information to facilitate information that is updated in areas of knowledge, beyond just saying that the production of food is lost or weight in the chain. We have a major opportunity to have a response to demanding markets, and that is the products that are not linked to deforestation, pesticides, metals, heavy metals, and so on. This context very quickly takes us to the better production is focalized also in 5 areas, which is quite broad: agricultural production, forestry, aquaculture, fishing, and of course, agro-food. And this takes us all in the sense of generating a governance within the institutionality in order to have products in the context of safety. What does this imply? It implies that we have to continue working with a focus that fosters agroecology, conservation and restoration, organic agriculture, to continue encouraging pastures, agro-pastures, agroforestry, to create less impact, to work with value change to facilitate articulation amongst different players and everything related to the offer and demand of the different opportunities in distribution. And also we have a focus on agro ecosystems and services linked to agriculture and farming, and of course, fishing, aquaculture, which is in a context of sustainability. This provides a framework of technical assistance that we have been collaborating and involved with: transfer, innovation, research, financial support services that engulfs these areas that we just talked about. It generates access to information, building capacity, productive practices that are both sustainable, resilient, and also generating policies, protocols, strategies, standards, and also to contribute to the access of productive resources, both land and natural resources. All this work takes us to the restoration and management of soils. We have different players like a CDP, soils. We have guidelines. We have been working with different communities in the soil doctor program. We also have a work that we have carried out with forest restoration linked to biodiversity and water, the management and production and rescue of seeds. When we talk about agroecology, when we talk about seeds that are linked with agrodiversity, we have a minute to go. We have different also management for plagues and diseases. We have the bio input, alternative management for fertilizers, best practices for pesticide use, the protection of oceans, and also the control of illegal fishing. We have products that are free from deforestation, pesticides, amongst other, and very quick works that we have in agroecology. We have countries that have progressed enormously. We have we would like to underline Argentina, Chile, and Nicaragua. We see many countries that are implementing protocols for sustainable management of soils. There's an enormous difference in mechanisms of obsolete pesticides. This is a very good experience that we can learn from. There is also a purpose to restore 3 million hectares in the Latin American region. We have a good best practices for the management of water and soils, and we have progressed in seeds. In the case of Venezuela, we have some seed banks in Peru. There's also the campaign of eating fish, which is very important in Peru. We also have a school food program. We also have the good practices in management of water and soil beyond a social survey that is being carried out. Thank you very much. I am open to your question. Just in time. Thank you very much, Ana. And just like the other presentations, we have invited a person also of civil society to set forth a presentation. We have from the north of our region in Mexico, we have our colleague Laura Hernandez. Laura, welcome. You are the representative of Etnia and the delegate of Etnia for the Alliance.
Laura, no sé, estás, ¿no? Sí, está ahí.
Are you there, Laura? Yes.
Bienvenida, tienes 5
Welcome,
minutos.
Laura. You have 15 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have 1 minute. Thank you for being here. Good morning. I am delighted to be here. From the Alianza, from the previous conference, we have been setting forth various points that have been already dealt with. There are various aspects: land, territory, technology, healthier diets. Right now, Ana Posas was giving us a detail about how some countries have implemented the agroecology focus. We continue in alliance with that idea that it is fundamental that other countries assume agroecology as a focus, particularly when talking about the environment, for the preservation of native seeds, for the reproduction also of healthy diets, the preservation of local knowledge, traditional knowledge. We believe that it is paramount to have this focus as an alliance. We believe that it is very important to continue on that path. We also believe that we need to strengthen, when we talk about production, we need to strengthen circular economy with local markets, because it is on a daily basis when families consume, purchase their products. So we do need the strengthening of these markets and to also strengthen agriculture, agroecology, and fishing of the producing families. We need to strengthen these aspects in these locations. There is also an aspect that I heard that is related to the environment. To have a production, we need communities, peoples in general, to have a governance on territory management. Without them, there are no seeds, there are no fruits, no animals. What I refer to is without territory, there is no life where we can acquire what we feed ourselves with. Therefore, the communities and peoples need to manage and govern on these territories to avoid exploitation of natural resources. In this context, there's this over-exploitation of natural resources. We've talked about the cutting of trees in our areas, and sometimes crops that are not adapted or do not adapt to areas. For example, they have extensive plantations or projects of plants or trees that are not adapted to these territories and the weather. It is important to safeguard these and that communities are fully in charge of these spaces and territories. Now, sorry, I have little time.
Ajá.
I have 2 minutes.
Tenemos que hablar sobre esta
When
cuestión
we talk about aspects
de
of
los alimentos ultraprocesados,
ultra-processed foods, to work on the aspect of lost and waste of food and healthy diets. And before I conclude, it is important to talk about technologies. Sometimes when certain manner of production, we do not recall that they are not culturally accepted in the earth. These technologies should not create violence or overexploitation. They should be adapted to the local conditions, and they must entail a relation of knowledge of traditional communities that are already available. And technology should be efficient and adapted to that. And also financing. For a better production, we need financing to be focused to those local projects led by women, by youth, by peoples that have their own manner and their own productive projects and their own local markets. And we need to strengthen those markets. And there's those projects led by women and youth. It helps the community. Thank you very much.
Laura. Se mantuvo en el
Thank you very
tiempo.
much, Laura. She's within her time with very good comments. We will now go to a Q&A period. I see some chat and Zoom and social network. We have some comments and questions. However, I would like to go back to Fernando Lopez, which is from Cupo FAM. He was connected to comment for us what Daniela Godoy talked about, better nutrition. Fernando, are you there?
Hola, estoy con algunos problemas de conexión. No sé si, si se escucha con
Hello,
mucho
yes,
ruido.
I do have many connection problems now.
Bueno,
I think we can hear you okay. Go ahead. Okay, thank you very much. I'm just having some connection issues. Would like to greet Alberto Brock, President, CoPro. And I think that all the panel members and the comments given are aligned, right? We do need to generate comments to have more resilient systems. We think it also has to do with education. There's an education issue here that is very important. And I think it's been mentioned before, right, with the impact of COVID related to ancestral cultures and knowledge and worldview. And I think having good information education, even more in young people, kids in other countries, is important to modify the main paradigm, this main model. And I think that this provides more visibility to all the key areas. The idea is to have proper and adequate budgets in those countries and try not to fall back. For this purpose, it's important to participate in governance, innovation. Research is important, but it's also important to have a world view, ancestral knowledge, and for commitments to be state policies to go beyond changes of a government to different countries and for the changes to be seen with that more resilient, better nutrition, better production objective and try to be more resilient to climate change. We believe that organizations there have a critical role in the territory. And we think that working on preservation and recovery of our natural goods is key, but it's also key to legislate, to regulate the advances of the markets and companies, even more transnational companies, which there's a long way to go there. And I think that the role we have, family agriculture and farmers, is to generate, and family farming is to generate the food in a more agroecological manner, right? To create resilient systems and to comply and contribute towards that 2030 agenda or objectives, which were mentioned at the beginning of this conference, this talk. And I think that that is an aim for 2030, and we need to cover it.
Estos breves
That
comentarios
is more or less my comments.
con la conexión. Gracias, doctor.
And I have it's a challenging connection, but those are my comments for the time being. Thank you very much, Fernando. We still were able to hear you okay. We took notes of all your comments, and we hope that you can continue here with us because we will now
la
go
cual vamos a resgatar las preguntas
into the part where we are going to rescue all your questions and comments from the chat box and from social media. But if anyone in Zoom here, because we do have 42 people connected in Zoom, if someone wants to raise your hand, anyone just to ask any questions, you can do so. You can go ahead and ask. I'm just encouraging everyone to provide feedback. So we do have many comments here in the chat box, some questions. The first question was an agricultural ecology or agroecology. I don't know if we can go with Anna to comment on this. And then our colleagues will organize. I'll let you organize yourselves to answer all the questions that we have in the chat box. Luis or Ana, can you answer the first question?
Perdón, Duca.
Sorry?
Hola.
Duca?
Nosotros vamos a pasar ahora
I'm saying that we will now go into the Q&A sector, right? From social media and from the chat box.
¿Cómo salió el primer tema de agroecología? No sé si lo has
And since we talk about agroecology,
bueno, y además en otras tantas intervenciones
and well, we've had many other interventions, right, from representatives of civil society, but it'll be good to extend a bit more on agroecology. Maria Loel is asking if agroecology can be a clear line for strengthening food sovereignty for that period. She also talked about mobilization of resources and how can we reinforce processes to ensure we have a fair transition of food systems, which allows indigenous and family farming to strengthen their resilience process and fair conditions in territories.
¿Que comente ahora?
Do you want me to comment now on this? Yes,
please.
Or if you have, or Ivy or Daniela or Luis,
tomar la palabra y reaccionarle a uno u otro
you can go
comentario.
ahead and react to some of the comments in the chat box.
Yo, si quiere, empiezo y Ana entra en los detalles.
I'll start about agroecology. I would like to start by 2 or 3 comments that I do think are worth noting in the chat box.
Tomando nota.
Notes here. I paid a lot of attention, and I do believe that it's truly a pleasure to hear from everyone and the importance on the use of prior, free, and informed consent instruments, right? We, in our projects, and the head of the program, the field program of the FAO can confirm or attest to this, that there's much attention to perfect our projects and our instruments or tools, but we're looking beyond the FAO projects. That's why we've talked about the training process on the use of that instrument in development processes. I think that converses with what was commented now, the importance of paying attention to what territory management and governance do, right? Because why territories? Everything you saw in these 4 presentations get together, you join everything because at the end of the day, we're talking about the fair transformation of agri-food systems. We're clear that everyone, the way in which the agri-food systems work today is insufficient to respond to a better condition or better nutrition or better use of natural resources, therefore to a better life. So that perspective has to be studied now. I feel like you mentioned a very important point for us from FAO and governments to continue driving, right? I think that sometimes something happens to us. We must rescue, strengthen, and value the different guidelines, voluntary governance guidelines, right? A bit more than 10 years ago, we approved that instrument. Like many of you worked a lot of this, right, on the different guidelines, quite popular, and maybe at some time
a essa temática, não?
this can provide a new drive towards that topic. But I'd like to take that point that Fernando Lopez mentioned,
E de alguma forma Mani antes,
and well, it was mentioned before. Manny also mentioned the importance that technologies adapt, dialogue with, for discuss with, and for there to be different processes between different worldviews or knowledge, right? It's not about going back to a remote past where we do things just like they've been done before, but the idea is how through the know-how we can create a new dialogue. I think that
importante que contribui pôr sobre a
and I
mesa
think that we do have a very important thing to contribute here, important. And I think that Anna can go deep into this, but
cá para a FAO. E por isso,
I think that's something important for FAO, and from Maya's presentation, we could see that we're looking at 1, 2, and 10, right? The SDGs, food security for everyone, food safety to reduce inequalities, etc. I think that that's a perspective that puts human beings at the core of our actions. I'm putting this because I'm saying this because we need to continue paying attention, right?
tímidos, não? Eu penso, por
We're still
exemplo,
quite shy.
de adultos maiores no mundo rural. Eu penso, Mani chamava a atenção de quando
It has to do with the elderly also in rural areas, right? Caught my attention that we went back to certain practices, but we also had a work overload for the work of women.
que construi as
So
relações.
it's a perspective towards everyone that's creating, they're meeting with nature, and I think that's something we must continue with.
De assessorar os países, de dialogar, enfim. Creio que aí é
It
algo
has to
que
do with the dialogue of advising countries, and I think that that's something that I'll take with me, a finding that I'll take with me in the notes, right? Thanks to the comments of Maria Noel, Laura, and Ivy. Thank you.
Complemento.
Complementar, sí.
La agroecología para FAO no es ya una línea de trabajo.
Agroecology for FAO is not, it's a very strong line of work, right? In fact, each one of the initiatives in different countries integrate the principles of agroecology as a science that allows us to work on different topics and different work areas that you presented here in the chat box. Lets you talk work on water, on soils, forests. We can also work with circular economy, with being more efficient, with reducing system waste, waste coming from the productive system, and we also have we can work on territorial ordinance, but we're ordering, and that means that we must have the local know-how and local worldview. We must consider that and link those support systems into the demand of the agro-food systems within the framework of the principles of agroecology, and to be able to join the new thing, the new matters with local matters. So agroecology is still a line of work. It's still another line of work is production linked to restoration, to conservation. And I'd also like to rescue the relevance that civil society have as an important, a critical partner for impacting not only the definition of public policies, but influencing the positioning of topics that lead to actually treating these issues correctly, how to work in a more orderly fashion, more efficiently, in a way that allows us to transition towards more sustainable agriculture, right? Not defining public policies without an investment, that's also very important to complete these actions. And soils, lands, that's very important too, because if not, all the principles of agroecology cannot be implemented. That's my take on this. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now Luis, Daniela Godoy was not able to be at this part of the meeting because she had to initiate another meeting, but from her team, we have Luis Lobos and Gabriela. But Luis Lobos, welcome, the floor is yours. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd just like to contribute on agroecology. From the regional office of FAO, we're working on this with the world of parliamentarians, right? You know that there are some countries that have worked on partnership linked with agroecology, like Nicaragua, Uruguay, Colombia, but currently we're supporting the regional parliament, the Latin parliament with Parlatino, and creating a framework law on agroecology. We also have civil society organization consultations, and we hope that at the end of the year we can have a framework law on agroecology, which can be something that's quite interesting. All the topics that you have, your work from civil society, right? The CSOs, but to provide visibility to agroecology and for that to be also a contribution to the transformation of agro-American systems. So thank you. Okay, thank you, Luis. I don't know if any other colleague can wants to add to this. Evie? Okay, thank you very much, Duca. To Jorge, Laura, Fernando, thank you very much for all your comments. The truth is that it is a way of putting all the strategic framework of joining it, putting it together, and in real life, into what really happens in territory. So I'd truly like to thank you for your vision. Now, I would like to focus on biodiversity and healthy and sustainable food, also related with food systems that are not only healthy in terms of nutritional quality of the food, but also I want to focus on the way that we produce food that is directly collected in forests or fished, right, in the sea. All these are healthy food stuff, and I think that we need to value this. And to Anna and Luis Pedusky's point, the participation of civil society has made evident this, has truly stressed this worldview that exists within the fishing communities, and focusing on this is critical. We, within FAO and the implementation of projects, we have the practice of documenting good practices and successful cases and making successful the presentation of those cases, right? To be able to generate social movements, to be able to promote the fact that there has this delegation in the use of territories or recovery of the rights of territories with evidence of the work that communities do, right? And I'd like to rescue the work that has been all the work done and all with the forest concessions, right? Forestry concessions. The work that has been done here is it's been critical. There's a lot of evidence on the good practices, how to truly make the best out of resources, make a best use, and to balance out the economic, social, and environmental matters. Now, that practice of being able to mainstream and disseminating good practices in all different forums, I think that it's something we have to work on a bit more, right, with each and every one of you present today to actually be able to create the social movement we need to drive better impact in public policies. Thank you very much, Duca. Okay, thank you, Evie, Gabriela. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Better Nutrition to Gabriela Godoy's team. Hello, good morning, everyone. I'd like to apologize because Daniela had to go. And what I'd just like to do is to thank on behalf of the entire team, everything that you've commented on. Thank you. And about our proposal, I'd like to especially thank Manny and Laura, Gia, Fernando for all your comments. And we will consider everything talked about if it's culturally appropriate or not, the consumption of fish in the school feeding programs. We're working on that, right? Better visibility of food or family farming. I'd like to comment on resilient food systems to be able to generate systems for having a good family farming, right? Also to support changes through innovation to generate food in a sustainable manner and public policies that has to do with governance. We'll consider everything and would like to thank you very much. We'll consider everything that has been mentioned. So thank you to all of you. Okay, thank you very much. And I believe that we've concluded with our round of questions with our colleagues. It has to do with the four improvements. I think that we're 10 minutes past our dialogue, right? Our conclusion. But now we're waiting for Maya, who's initiated the greetings for today. But we were expecting her, but she had to work in another meeting and she will not be here with us. So I would like to conclude with the dialogue and conversation today. I'd like to thank each and every one of you that have been present here today. I'd like to thank you. I truly feel quite pleased and joyful to have this space. I think that we should have more dialogues as participations of representatives from civil organizations, right? We have to know what's happening in the territory. We must engage the representatives of countries and the FAO too. And I wanted to comment that decision, this session was recorded. We'll upload it to the website of FAO America. You'll be able to watch it again. We've also taken note of everything. We're creating the conferences. We're drafting them for the regional conference of FAO next year, which will be in Guyana in March. And everything we talk about here will be of inspiration for the formulation of those documents that at the end of the day will guide our agenda for the next biennium. So the decision considers the 33 countries in our region, but yes, we will go and propose all the prior topics for our agenda. And probably I did notice something. Agroecology appeared quite strongly in circular economy, the ancestral know-how, right? Knowledge, worldviews, but it also emerged. But innovation also came up, mitigation linked with the ancestral know-how and the needs of the communities. Now, funding, mobilizing resources to move that transformation of the elemental systems is very important. Governance at a local level is also very important. And experiences, we've seen many interesting experiences as the representatives of the Caribbean mentioned, right? The community gardens, right? Which are experiences that we should greatly favor the population. And also to rescue something that someone mentioned. It's quite necessary here. I'd like to stress the need that we must have family farming and FAO converse, right, and relate more. I think that we are making our best efforts to do so, but in that participative or dialogue circle, we see how rich the richness of having this type of exchange, the fact that we can improve our work here at a regional level and also in countries. So I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to comment that we've had, let's see the numbers here. We've had more than 270 people connected today, and soon we will be inviting all the different social movements, organizations from civil society organizations, CSOs, technical NGOs, First Nations, young women, fishermen societies to the civil society consultation, which we will have 1 month before the regional conference. So you will receive information and invitation will be extended. We will be announcing everything on our social media, and nothing further to say. Thank you very much to all of you for being here, and we will keep in touch. Thank you very much.